Ever walk into a room full of people and suddenly feel drained, like your soul just got mugged? Yeah, you just met an energy vampire. And if you don't learn how to handle them, they will ruin your focus, block your goals, and dim your light permanently. Welcome to Apex, the place where we build the strongest version of you. Subscribe now if you're tired of being drained and ready to become untouchable. Energy vampires are not monsters with fangs. They're often the people closest to you. They disguise themselves as friends, family, lovers, even co-workers. But deep down, they carry a hidden hunger. They feed on your happiness, your hope, your drive, your light. They can't generate energy of their own, so they leech off yours. If you're naturally motivated, creative, joyful, ambitious, that threatens them, so they'll mock your goals. They'll throw shade on your ideas. They'll bring problems to your peace just to feed their own emptiness. And here's the worst part. They do it so casually that you almost feel guilty for noticing, but not anymore. This series will give you 7 unshakable truths, not just to survive energy vampires, but to rise above them. It's time to protect your power and cut off the drain for good. Let's begin. Exposure. Recognize them without emotion. Energy. Vampires don't always come with red flags. Most of the time, they come with smiles. That's why your first line of defense isn't to fight them. It's to see them clearly. No anger, no drama, just exposure. The moment you start succeeding, glowing up, or even just showing confidence, they flinch. They make passive comments like, "Don't get ahead of yourself. Let's be realistic, or you've changed." But what they're really saying is, "Stop shining because it reminds me that I'm still in the dark." You'll know them by what they drain. Start watching your energy, not just your time. You speak with ambition. They go silent. You talk about growth. They downplay it. You express joy. They inject sarcasm. These are not accidents. These are emotional micro-attacks meant to pull you back to their level. And here's what makes it dangerous. Some of them aren't even trying to be toxic. They're just stuck, lost in fear, envy, insecurity, or self-hate, and your progress makes them uncomfortable. Your light burns their shadows, but remember this. Not everyone around you wants you to win, so instead of labeling them friend, family, or colleague, start labeling them by energy. Ask yourself, do I feel more or less alive? After being around them, do I leave more focused or more confused? Do they encourage my growth or subtly sabotage it? Once you see them, you can beat them. But first, you have to take the emotion out. No fights, no debates, no drama, just recognition, because when you finally see someone for who they are, you'll never fall for who they pretend to be. On the next page, we'll go into setting boundaries without guilt, how to build walls without burning bridges. Barriers. Set boundaries without guilt. Once you've identified the energy vampire, the next step is to build the wall. This is where most people fail. Not because they don't know how to set boundaries, but because they feel guilty doing it. They feel like they owe people access to their energy simply because of shared bloodlines, memories, or social pressure. But here's a hard truth. Not everyone deserves full access to you. Your energy is your currency, and boundaries are your budget. The people who drain you the most are the ones who fear your boundaries the most. Because once you learn how to protect your peace, they can no longer manipulate your mind. Setting boundaries isn't cruelty, it's clarity. It's telling the world, I know who I am, and I decide what gets to shape me. Too often we equate love with sacrifice. Especially when it comes to family and close friends. We're told, be the bigger person, keep the peace, or that's just how they are. But those phrases are not wisdom. They're weapons used to keep you submissive and drained. Love without boundaries leads to resentment. Kindness without limits leads to burnout. It's not selfish to protect your energy. It's self-respect. You don't need to argue. You don't need to explain. You don't need to defend your limits. Simply say, "I'm focusing on myself right now," or "I'm not available for that kind of conversation." You're not asking for permission. You're asserting your right to peace. Some people will get offended. That's okay. Their reaction is not your responsibility. A person who benefits from your lack of boundaries will always call your strength selfish. Don't let it shake you. They'll either adapt or they'll leave. Either way, you win in Naui. The modern world, where access is constant, through phones, DMs, group chats and notifications, guarding your space is more vital than ever. Learn to log out. Learn to mute. Learn to say no without guilt and yes without fear. This is your life, your mission, and you can't complete it if you're constantly bleeding energy into people who don't even value it. Silence. Don't explain yourself. One of the greatest traps energy vampires set is conversation, not the healthy kind, but the kind designed to pull you into defending your decisions, justifying your goals, and shrinking your power. It always starts subtly. Why are you doing that? Don't you think that's a little extreme? Are you sure that's the right move? But beneath the surface, what they're really trying to say is, explain yourself so I can poke holes in your confidence. The antidote is silence. You do not owe anyone a TED talk about your vision. You do not need a committee to validate your choices. You're not on trial, and they're not the jury. If you're always explaining, you're always on the defensive. And if you're on the defensive, you're already giving away energy. Most people aren't seeking understanding. They're seeking control. They want you to second-guess yourself because your certainty threatens their comfort. Silence destroys that control. It puts you in the position of power. It says, "I don't need you to get it, I only need me." When you stop explaining, you become unpredictable, and unpredictability is power. It keeps your energy internal, your mind sharp, and your progress pure. You're not wasting time crafting speeches for people who've already decided not to support you. You're not feeding the gossip mill with updates they don't deserve. You're moving. Quietly, relentlessly, unapologetically. There's a reason ancient warriors moved in silence. It wasn't just for strategy, it was for energy preservation. Your words are spells. Every time you speak, you give a piece of yourself away. Don't waste that on people who twist your words, mock your ideas, or water down your vision. Let your results be your proof. Let your peace be your statement. Let your silence be your answer. Withdrawal. Master the art of distance. Sometimes the most powerful move is no move at all, just distance. When you've recognized the energy vampire, when you've set your boundaries, and when you've stopped explaining, there's one final surgical step left: withdrawal. Energy vampires don't feed on silence alone, they feed on proximity. Just being around them can suck the life out of your spirit. You don't even need to engage. You could be in the same room, and somehow your motivation disappears. That's when you know it's time to vanish. Not with a bang, not with a war, but with calm, precise, strategic distance. Understand this, you are not obligated to stay close to people just because you once were. Proximity is not loyalty. Loyalty is measured in energy. And anyone who drains yours while offering nothing in return is not loyal to you. They're addicted to you. Pulling away doesn't need a speech. You don't need to announce your exit or write a dramatic farewell post. You just become less available. You take longer to reply. You skip the unnecessary calls. You spend more time building yourself than maintaining others. It feels uncomfortable at first. You'll question yourself. You'll hear the guilt whispering, but they're your family, or they've been there for years. But here's the truth. Loyalty to your own growth is not disloyalty to others. You're not abandoning anyone. You're choosing alignment. You're choosing your mission, your purpose, your peace. And when you master withdrawal, something powerful happens. You regain your clarity. The fog clears. Your ideas come back. Your energy rebuilds. You remember who you were before. They drained you. This isn't about being cold. It's about being clear. Clear about what feeds your spirit and what feeds off it. Protection. Preserve your energy through solitude and purpose. Once you've removed the energy vampires and reclaimed your space, there comes a new danger. Distraction disguised as comfort. Now that you're lighter, free from their drain, the question becomes, what do you do with your restored energy? Because if you don't protect it with intention, the world will drain it all over again. Slowly, subtly, and without warning. This is where solitude becomes sacred. Solitude is not loneliness. It's leadership. It's where your thoughts sharpen. It's where your values settle. It's where you become dangerous again, not through violence, but through clarity. When you spend time in your own presence, you remember your worth. You start filtering out the noise. You become immune to chaos because your internal world is finally at peace. Energy must flow into something greater, or it gets wasted. That's why purpose matters. It becomes your protection. When you're locked in on something meaningful, building your business, writing your vision, perfecting your craft, sharpening your body, you no longer feel the pull of petty drama. You no longer have the bandwidth to entertain energy thieves because your life is now too purposeful for nonsense. Most people lose their peace not because they're too weak, but because they're too available. Too available for conversations that drain, for habits that distract, for patterns that delay their evolution. You want to stay protected? Lock your energy into something bigger than gossip, opinions, and comfort. Lock it into your mission. Be so focused that they wonder if you've disappeared. Be so disciplined that mediocrity stops inviting you. Be so driven that energy vampires no longer know how to reach you. Remember this, you're not just avoiding the wrong energy, you're feeding the right one. Every moment of peace, every choice of discipline, every second you say no to the trivial, is you saying yes to the version of yourself that's unstoppable. Evolve. Outgrow them without hatred. You don't need revenge. You don't need to prove anything. The final defeat of an energy vampire is not confrontation, it's elevation. The quiet, steady ascent of a man who no longer lives in their orbit. That's the true sting. Not rage, not insults, just distance and growth. Here's what most people don't realize. Evolution is the loudest silence. When you outgrow someone, you don't even have to block them. Life does it for you. You no longer fit the same conversations, the same circles, the same games. You've risen to a level where the air is cleaner and the noise can't reach you. It's tempting to hate them. To look back and say, you tried to drain me, you tried to block me, you doubted me. But hate is still a connection. It still ties you to them energetically. Let it go. The only true freedom is emotional detachment. Not coldness, clarity. Not indifference born from bitterness, but indifference born from power. You owe them nothing. Not closure, not forgiveness, not explanation. What you owe is to yourself, to rise, to build, to become. Every second spent resenting them is a second stolen from your progress. You want to break their grip on your energy. Outgrow them and never look back. Turn that pain into power, that bitterness into blueprint, that betrayal into fuel. Become everything they swore you couldn't, not to spite them, but because you finally realized your worth. Let them talk. Let them guess. Let them gossip. While they're doing that, you're moving in silence, building, training, earning, healing, living. Because the greatest revenge is not proving them wrong. It's no longer needing them in your world at all. This is your rebirth. This is your protection. This is your freedom. You don't fight energy vampires. You outgrow them. And then you leave them in the shadows.